This guy seems to think that Starfield's going to be one of the best video games ever made. You know what? He may be true. He may be right. Like, the hype train for Starfield has been working well because everyone's completely forgotten about that little game Redfall that fell so flat on its face that no one could imagine a world in which Bethesda ever did anything correctly again. That's good. But like the marketing on Starfield has like changed a lot of opinions on like what to expect out of it, and people were very hesitant to like be excited about new games. But with where Starfield is right before launch, people are getting hyped. See what this video has to say about it.
What are some of the qualities that you think of when it comes to understanding what makes for a great video game? Is it story, characters, gameplay, music, multiplayer, originality, graphics, the studio making the game, or something else that I didn't just name? There are many others, but you get the point. More importantly though, what will the game make you feel in terms of emotions and thought? Will it make you more engaged to keep playing and be entertaining, or can it even tell a beautiful story and showcase the world in an epic light to where you are enamored for how much great and passionate work was put into making the game itself? These are all things that we must consider when examining a video game and its potential. That is why here today I am making this video to consider the possibility that I believe that Starfield will be one of the best video games ever created for many of those different attributes that I listed.
Like, I think that from what I've seen, there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of like setup for this game. I think that from all of the clips that they've shown and how much information they've given about it, there's a lot of attention to detail. But I don't think that it would have been that way if they launched when they wanted to launch 1 year ago. I think this 1 year ago, like the 1 year delay, is going to make all the refining issues that the game needed to be what this guy is saying.
The game is slowly approaching its release of the early September release date, so it feels appropriate to make this video as we inch closer and closer to that date. People are going to start hyping up the game, and for good reason, because at least from my perspective, from what I've seen of the game, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and could legitimately be something massive for the gaming world. I'd be curious to know all your thoughts down below in the comments on where your hype levels are for Starfield and whether or not you think it's going to be a great game. Again, as long as the game comes out in a good and finished state, that is what this is all dependent on. Also, in anticipation for my excitement for this game, I went and made a fan-made trailer combining Interstellar with Starfield up above, so go check that out if you
why
are
would you
interested.
do that?
So let's jump right into the first reason for why I believe.
Like, I think it's so weird to like confuse and interlink like completely separate intellectual properties like that. So in chat, you're talking about the confusion between like the video versus what is being said. All this footage seems to be B-roll footage from Starfield Direct that was put in with a voiceover for the points that he's trying to make.
Believe that Starfield is going to be one of the biggest and best games of all time. It is as simple as you might think, but it is because of the fact that it revolves around space. Space exploration, I think, is something that makes for great moments of fun video gaming. Moments that I honestly believe could replicate for an experience that a game like Minecraft and both Destiny games bring. Minecraft is a game that allows you to explore endless amounts of a world.
Minecraft has nothing to do with space, though. It's just an unknown planet. You never go into space. Like, your greater point, I guess, is the sense of exploration and the, like, depth of exploration given the size of the space. So is he talking about, like, physical space or, like, actual space? Wait a minute.
To mine, collect resources, build your own house.
They're both
farm,
really big.
You name it. There are so many endless
Yeah, so you're
possibilities
talking about
for you
space
in
and
Minecraft to
size,
do
not
things.
space
Destiny
as
is a
in
game that allows you
space.
to explore the vastness of space while fighting enemies and also collecting resources from them and the environments of each planet and moon.
Not a confusing
You can
word.
use all that to upgrade your character and what you use with your ship. That is what Starfield, to me, feels most authentic to when comparing to other video games.
I mean, it's an
Minecraft is
open
one
world
of the
exploration
longest-lasting video games ever. Both Destiny games, while they are not flawless, have brought about a lot of great moments in science fiction gaming. I myself have created a lot of great memories playing those games. They are addicting, and they're also
It's really hard to compare this game to Destiny when Destiny is a MMO and you actually interact and play with other players throughout the universe to achieve goals together, and this is going to be completely single player. The more direct comparison to this would be No Man's Sky, which again, you have tons of space, open world, and the question for this game is going to be, do they deliver a product that has everything No Man's Sky has now, or are they going to deliver a product that is everything No Man's Sky was at launch, which was empty?
also a lot of fun. That right there is, I think, what Starfield is going to do in many ways from how those games do it on their own. You are going to have that sense of wonderment exploring space.
And to be clear, Starfield appears to have a lot of development in storylines, quest lines, and everything like that. So should have way more content-wise to fill that void of mass openness that No Man's Sky suffered from in its early days.
You are going to have that innate want to travel across these planets and moons to collect these resources and see what each has to offer in terms of alien life. This actually leads into my second point, which revolves around these planets and moons, as I mentioned. Now, there is a quote from Todd Howard himself, the CEO of Bethesda, where
I'm just gonna cut into this point real quick. Planets and moons and lots of them does not mean it's going to be great. Straight out. Again, No Man's Sky. Tons of planets, moons, and suns. When it launched, there was nothing to do. A lot of these planets are going to be procedurally generated, and they're going to be empty. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be done well with quest lines and reasons to go to these planets and do things. There is still a lot of potential in that system. It's just saying that it has a lot of planets and moons doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a straight S-tier game because of it. They still have to deliver on content and reasons to go to these places, which, again, from what I've heard, they are planning on delivering or have reasons to do that.
Where he has stated that Starfield is going to feature 1,000 planets for exploration. Whether that includes the moons of these planets is another story, which I would garner there would be plenty of those moons to go along with it. Now, if we do the math here and we divide it down, let's hypothetically say that it takes a day to explore 2 planets and their moons. That is roughly enough content for someone to play this game for about a year and a few months. And
I don't like the math here. But why do you want to go to every planet? This is that whole artificial content. Okay, so it takes that long to go to every planet, but do you want to go to every planet? Is there a reason to go to every planet? What is the reason to go to every planet? Yeah, sure, the content's there, but is the content something that you actually want to do and have a reason to do?
And that doesn't even include everything else in the game that you will have the ability to do. In fairness, this could lean more toward...
I feel like I'm being very negative right now, but I am super excited for Starfield, and I think it's going to be a really good game. I just want to have a managed expectations and points of reality type of mentality going into it. I am hyped. I want to play the game. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't want to overlook the fact that some of these things need to be addressed once I get into the game to make me want to stay long term.
towards someone who might want to speedrun the game,
A
although for
nuanced
someone like me,
opinion.
I find that taking my time and playing through the game effectively is what makes for a good experience. Speedrunning, I think, can take away from that, and people are free to do what they want when playing. That's just something that I noticed as of recently with some people who like to speedrun video games. They run through the game in one day and then they comment negatively on it because it didn't give them a satisfying enough experience.
I
Just
agree with
something
that.
I noticed, but to each their own. If we get back to my point, this doesn't even
People in modern gaming do very much skip the journey to get to the destination. I don't really care about the game. I care about finishing the game. And you miss a lot when you do that.
include everything that a player will have to do with regards to things like skill points and the challenges and the customization
The
that you
skill
will have
tree
at
and
every
UI
moment.
looks so great.
There's going
for
to
this
be a
game.
lot to do in the game, of course, as long as it follows through on release and we have the ability to do all of this. This is going to be one of the biggest games ever made simply because of something like this. A game that will give you lasting opportunities for so long, and that is not to mention what Bethesda could put into the game while in its life cycle. DLC that can make the game last even longer. I've already mentioned it already in that last point, but let's talk about those challenges and skill points and everything that you are going to be
Progression.
able to do in the
This one, I did a whole complete other video just watching the progression and skill tree. It looks so well put together, and it looks very intuitive with plenty of options and different ways to grow your character. Like, I think that this is the real content that is going to propel it. Like, this should have been his first point, honestly. From what I've seen of the skill tree and everything like that, this is what makes it a top tier game. This, if the quest lines and everything fall into place, is what makes it and gives me the drive to want to go to the planets and explore the worlds and do all the things, is because this progression system exists that I can understand easily and want to move through.
game from a progression perspective. I would implore most people to go and watch or rewatch the Starfield Direct that came with the Xbox Summer Showcase in June. That is one of the best behind the scenes looks at a video game I think that we have
Beautifully
ever seen.
done.
So much detail showcased
Best
in the
way to
span of almost
showcase.
an hour long. One of the main points that they touched upon was the progression systems and the challenges in what you will be able to do with your character, ship, and so on. While the Starfield Direct lays it out for you, I'll give a quote to spell it out in dialogue from GamesRadar.com. Starfield skills lets players shape and level up their character, enhancing and developing attributes and abilities. Physical ability, combat, social science, tech, and other things can all be upgraded and improved as you play, shaping your journey through this world. The way Starfield's system works is that you level up through a combination of gaining XP by doing stuff, using that to unlock things, and then completing challenges to improve what you unlock. There are obviously a lot of skills and abilities for players to unlock and improve, and it's an interesting system that mixes traditional experience-based unlocking with performance-based upgrade. So to basically lay
I
it
would
out
agree
in
with
simple
all that.
terms, it is a natural progression-based system that lets you earn things through playing the game as much as you want. You are not held back by anything money-based, real money I mean anyway. Now, whether or not Bethesda decides to add in real money-based progression where you pay to win is another conversation entirely. I would hope that Bethesda doesn't make
I hate the idea of pay to win, but at the end of the day, it's a single player game, so it's not really pay to win, is it? It's just pay to skip the game. And if someone wants to do that, that's kind of on them. If it was an online game, then like, yeah, I have a hard time believing that there won't be some sort of microtransaction. It's just harder to do microtransactions in single player because the only person that sees that is you. And if it is pay to win, it's really pay to skip the game because you're not beating anyone necessarily. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go with any microtransactions or stores, but it's hard to see a world where a game doesn't have that if they can.
that mistake because people do not take lightly to that anymore. So if they stick with the natural system, then we are looking good and everyone is going to be happy. The next point to talk about is who the studio is, which, as I just said, is Bethesda Games, a company known for franchises like Elder Scrolls, where you have a game like Skyrim, which is one of the longest-lasting video games ever made, the Fallout series, which is full of great titles spanning many years, and even something like the modern Doom games from Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal.
This is a rose-colored glasses take on Bethesda because Redfall happened. 76 happened. We don't talk about it. No one talks about it. It doesn't exist. 76 is a figment of your imagination, but there's still players that actually like that game. Like, Bethesda has had misses. Bethesda has had big misses. Bethesda has let fans down before, but they do have more wins than losses.
They are a very well-respected studio that has shown enough proof that they have made great games. Now, in fairness, their last title in Fallout 76 was not very well received. I still feel
that wasn't their last title, though. Was it? Look. Just... That wasn't their last title, though. It was Redfall. Everyone has forgotten about Redfall. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And like 76, not only did they do a lot of bad stuff with marketing with the canvas bags and the Nuka-Cola Dark and all these other things in the marketing of 76, but 76 fell flat. Redfall fell flat. Like, people were starting to get excited for it and they got into it and they're like, this is an empty, dull, boring, non-engaging world. And that's already been swept under the rug. Starfield has successfully marketed Redfall out of people's minds. And I think it's crazy, but it is what it is, I guess. And 6,000 releases of Skyrim.
I feel that even sometimes a great studio can make a mistake and put out a game that is not as good as their past work. Just because Fallout 76 did not meet expectations does not mean that they should become a studio that is not trusted. They are clearly hyping up Starfield to be their biggest game that they've ever created, and while that has yet to be seen, from everything that they have shown us so far, I am very confident that they are confident that they are putting out a good product. Again, I want to preface this, but it takes a great level of confidence for a studio to be able to show off as much as they did during that Xbox Summer Showcase. Another recent video game that came out where the studio showed off a lot of behind-the-scenes footage and it ended up turning out really well was the Dead Space remake back at the beginning of 2023. I played that game and it was a lot of fun, and almost in some cases,
the remake was a lot of fun because the original was a lot of fun. People are tired of remakes. It's why they re-released Skyrim how many times, and like people just eat it up because it's Skyrim and it's a good game. But like they re-released Dead Space 2 and like, oh, it's a good remake. It's because the original game was a good remake. Like, this is a new IP in a new universe, a new everything. So it's very hard to take some of these as a point of that this is going to be good because the last remake was good. You can't do that. This is so new that we have no idea if they're going to deliver the story, because the last story they delivered was Redfall in 76.
Maybe even better than the original game. Again, I'm hoping that we do get everything that has been showcased to us, whether it be the 1,000 planets, or whether it be all these different challenges and systems of progression that I hope is all going to be there on release. But the point that I'm making here is that they're going to be there on release. It seems that they are confident enough to show this all off and realize that they have something good on their hands. Whether the actual players find all that on release remains to be seen, but still, my point stands. Bethesda has done really good work in the past, and so we should still be excited enough to hold out that they will deliver on another great game. The next point has to do with the storytelling of Starfield and what the campaign is going to end up being.
I don't know how he can make an assessment of this. Now, from what I understand of the story is the way you interact with some characters is going to be completely based on the skills that you do or do not possess. That's cool because it adds a individualism to the story. The main storyline, I don't really know anything about, and they haven't said a whole lot about the main storyline and questing, which is good because I don't want spoilers, but it's hard to give an accurate prediction of what it's going to be like. I could foresee it being good because, again, Fallout 4 had good storytelling, and like they've done good storytelling in the past, but we don't know what their goals and how they plan on delivering this is yet. So
the game is set in the year 2330, and so humanity has been able to travel across many different systems on areas of space. Your character is going to be implemented into many different locations and factions, and you'll be able to do side missions, exploring different planets, and to search for artifacts and so on.
And that's
one of
all
the main
good
groups
stuff
that you are going to be working with is called Constellation, and they are basically a group of explorers who want to search the galaxy and the universe for many different artifacts. So here in this case, with this point, again, you are going to have a lot more to do with what could be added into the amount that has already been mentioned in this video with regards to the challenges and so on and so forth. There is so much more that you can be doing with regards to everything that is already implemented into the game just by coupling in the story with that. How much is involved in this story portion of the game is, again, yet to be seen, but so far it sounds intriguing. One of the things that I think makes for a good story about science fiction and space is that you are an explorer. You are constantly trying to find new things about the galaxy around you and where you are going to be traveling to. I think that that is what makes for a great science fiction storytelling aspect. The concept is there. Now, whether the story follows through remains to be seen. But again, as I just said, the concept is what I think is most intriguing to a lot of people. The next point is more of a smaller one, but it's regarding the graphics, gameplay, and then the music of this game. That is something that I think comes with the atmosphere. How much is Bethesda relying?
There's been some controversy about this, about where NVIDIA versus AMD stacks up in the minimum versus recommended requirements, having disparities, and with its system requirements being very close to what Jedi Survivor's system requirements were. Jedi Survivor had a lot of issues on launch with optimization because of the requirements and a couple other things. So is this game going to have the graphical restrictions that Jedi Survivor did? And that could be a major issue on launch. And hopefully, like, they're refining all this, they're optimizing all this, and they figured that out. That's the hope and that's the goal. I want that to be true, but we won't know until people start getting it onto multiple different systems and seeing how it plays and delivers. I believe that this game is also frame locked at 30 for the Xbox Series X, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of a knock against the graphics, right? The graphics are so high that they had to frame lock you down to deliver the performance.
On attention to detail to really nail down the vibe and atmosphere of this game's world that we are going to be exploring is a really big question. One of my favorite games that I've played recently for the first time is the original BioShock, which in my opinion is atmospherically one of the best video games ever created. The time and setting covered in with that game and its music and the graphical attention to detail is what makes that game such a fascinating playthrough. And in my opinion, music revolving around space is some of the best music out there. Take a movie like
From the music and like audio engineering that Starfield has shown, their audio engineering looks like it is going to be top notch, which I love because I think audio engineering can make such a massive difference in immersion and game development. If your audio engineering is really good, it adds so many levels of enjoyment to the experience.
Interstellar, for example, which is my favorite film of all time. Hans Zimmer was able to compose such a beautiful, beautiful score that resonates with the setting of that movie. Hopefully we can see something like that here in this game, and so far the trailers and the marketing have given us some good music. Whether that is in the game or not, I would hope it is, but like I said, that adds to the decor of
If
what
it's
makes
not,
for
they're
a good
missing
video
out
game
big
experience.
time.
A game like BioShock also really nailed the
pretty sure it will
gameplay
be.
aesthetic of that world, and here in Starfield, it looks like it could play out for some fun experiences. I'm sure that there will be many different forms of combat that will be given to you through the skills and so on. The more choices that you get, the more opportunities you have to feel more ingrained into the world of this game. So far from what I have seen, it looks like they are going to be giving you a lot of options. Now, my one final very important point that I want to mention in terms of the good factors of what this game could bring to make in terms of a great video game and one of the best ever has to do with YouTube, streaming, and then also social media content. There are, I think, endless possibilities, again, for some great types of videos and content to be made out of this game.
There should be enough open space in this world for you to have like a truly unique adventure and try to build this like storyline out of. But there's a lot of games that give you this opportunity. I think this one will have plenty of it, just like, again, I think Fallout 4 is probably going to be the closest comparison to what we may be looking at here, just on a larger scale, space-wise, which can give you a lot of opportunity as a creator to like, you know, I'm going to go claim this planet and build a home and everything's going to be wonderful and I'm just going to be a hermit, old curmudgeon that yells at everyone to stay off my lawn and conducts piracy when people come too close to my planet.
I want to try and make content of my own around this game, but as I said, there are so many things that people can do with this. You can see walkthroughs, breakdown videos, speedrun videos, lore-based videos, and so much more that can also come from streaming and people who would just stream the game endlessly for people to watch in their own experience in a live fashion. Again, this is all predicated on whether or not the game lives up to the hype. If it does, I genuinely think that you are going to see a blow-up. In the past, I've been disappointed with some games that had the possibility of doing so, like a Cyberpunk, for example. If we're talking about a recent one, I thought that that game was going to be one of the biggest games ever, and it
like
completely fumbled the bag, unfortunately. If Starfield does the exact opposite here, I'm telling you, I think we are in for something really good. From my perspective, I hope that I can bring a great number of awesome Starfield videos, considering that there are not very many channels out there at the moment that are making Starfield content, and it is understandable since the game is still far away from its release. We'll just have to wait and see and also hope. One of the best things that I will mention in this video that I feel is important to talk about, because I don't want to make this video seem like I'm just all out for Starfield to say that it will be in fact the greatest video game ever made. I am also honest and going to acknowledge that there are some drawbacks to certain areas of this game. For one, like most Bethesda games, there is not going to be a multiplayer component at the start. This is completely a single-player driven narrative.
I do content creation with a couple of other people from time to time, and it would be nice if like I could bring someone in and we could like make a farm together, or like have a 2 to 4 player like join my world situation is really what I think I would want out of this game. I don't want a massive MMO experience because I think it would take away from certain aspects of it. But if you could have like a 2 to 4 player join someone's world scenario, that would be ideal for a lot of different things and just increased enjoyment in the game. But not like always online, live service, multiplayer, MMO. Not that. I think that would take away from what they've kind of built here. But a co-op where people could join in would be a lot of fun.
Story game. Now, in the past, that clearly has not faltered on any of Bethesda's games like Fallout, or even with something like Skyrim and Elder Scrolls. Their games always do very well regardless of that. Now, with Fallout 76, they did try to innovate, and they wanted to put in a Battle Royale and multiplayer mode into the game, but unfortunately that failed pretty fast because no one was really a fan of either version. As weird as it is to say that you would think that adding in a multiplayer component would help it, but it just unfortunately did not help Fallout 76 in any way.
I think that at launch, the issue with Fallout 76 was not the multiplayer. I think the issue with Fallout 76 at launch was how difficult it was to find the storyline and the content. It was not tailored and given directionally in the way that Fallout 4 was, and people, the bugs aside and the world not being stable, because it had those issues going on graphically and server wise. But at launch, Fallout 76 was very difficult to get into the groove of finding the content in the way that Fallout 4 delivered it. So I don't think the multiplayer was the destroying factor of 76. I think it was the way the content was delivered to the audience.
For a game like Starfield, I don't know if there can be as much worry for that. I would rather Bethesda make a really well-made single-player game that has everything there on launch for people to play than a multiplayer and single-player-based Starfield game that is missing features that it should have and is full of bugs and glitches. You basically get the point of what I'm saying here. Yes, not having multiplayer might turn some people off, but I think it also might benefit more than some others might think. Just look at another recent game in Elden Ring. That has no multiplayer and yet is one of the best and most sold games in the last several years. Not every game needs to have a multiplayer.
But wait a minute, can't you get on Elden Ring and challenge your friends to come into your world and duel? And can't you invade other people's worlds to try to kill them? Am I wrong here? Elden Ring has multiplayer options for co-op experience. Well, not like co-op necessarily, but like PvP experience and challenges from time to time. So to say Elden Ring doesn't have multiplayer, I don't think is fair or accurate.
Multiplayer mode and to be satisfying or popular. Another thing that could be seen as a detractor for the game that honestly, the more I look into it, I kind of understand it a little bit more, is the notion that the game will not be on 60 FPS. 60 FPS for a lot of people is a very important feature because it makes the game look more smooth and run faster. In today's
Elden Ring also has co-op boss fights? Yeah, see? So Elden Ring has multiplayer. So that argument we can kind of throw out. And then this argument on the locked 30 FPS, like I mentioned earlier, takes away from the graphic thing.
In today's day and age, most people think that 60 FPS is more updated for what we got back in the day with most games, which for the most part were running on 30 FPS. Honestly though, I kind of understand where Bethesda is coming from with this news because the game is massive, as I've mentioned already, and it would probably destroy some people's hardware and make the game really buggy and glitchy because, again, they just wouldn't be able to handle it. That is how big that this game is probably going to be. One of the hopes that I think could come from this is
that's an optimization problem. That's a over-design problem. I get that you want the game to run smoothly and look good, but this goes back to points that I've made several times where the goal is not to make the prettiest world anyone has ever seen. It's to deliver a engaging, enjoyable product that has a good storyline and makes people want to stay in the game. If you have to scale back your graphics to give people reliable 60 frames per second because that's what people want, that's something you should do. You shouldn't have to push the bounds on everything to the point where you have to start reducing performance metrics.
Is that somebody out there is able to create a mod on the game that allows for people to play through 60 FPS. I don't know anything about how they could be made, but I'm sure a lot of people are hoping that that could be something that happens. Again, I understand where both sides are coming from with this, so I just hope that the game is fun regardless
problem's
of
like
this detraction.
A gaming
I think we have now come
problem.
to the end of my video where I have explained all that I need to have talked about to get my point across to why I feel the way I do about this game. I have a deep passion for gaming and video games and entertainment media that revolve around space and science fiction. I mean, funny enough as it is, if you haven't noticed, my YouTube profile picture is actually a black hole with my name in it. My name, Orion, is based on Orion's belt because, again, it's related to space. That is how much I like all of this stuff. Starfield looks like it's going to be a combination of a lot of great things from what we have seen so far, and that is why here today I am making this video because, again, I feel like I want to make sure that we get the hype going for when we eventually get our hands on this game come the beginning of September. If you you are excited like I am, and you also believe that this is going to be potentially one of the biggest and best video games ever made, please comment down below with your thoughts and what you've seen and my commentary, and like this video if you enjoyed and are excited for Starfield. I would also greatly appreciate
and I'm
if you
gonna
could
reiterate,
subscribe to the channel if you are new and are somebody who is looking forward to the game and wants to follow me while I'm going to be making.
Here's the thing. It sounds like he's going to be getting into Starfield content in the future. I'm going to keep my eye on him. Everyone drop a like on the video because like it does deserve a like just for the time and effort that he put into like getting his point out there. But I think that some of the things that he said kind of were delivered in a very rose-colored glasses situation, and I think things were ignored and missed. I don't want to sell hype when it comes to things like this because hype can be a problem. I want us to all be very realistic. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. But we have to go into it with a reasonable expectation of what I want out of the game and what it needs to deliver to be good and what I'm willing to accept little cuts out of, right? I don't think that like all of his points made perfect sense. I think he had some really good points in there, and I pointed out some counterpoints to it to kind of balance it. He said he didn't want to be the hype man, or like he's just fanboying it completely. A lot of the video sounded like that, and we'll just have to see. But I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun in it. I just need to see it deliver on certain key components of story development and stuff like that, and see how it runs, because there's always the chance Star Wars Jedi Survivor was an amazing game, but it had a lot of issues because of its graphics and crashing early on, which made it unplayable. That doesn't mean they didn't optimize it, fix it, make it a good game, and I enjoyed it a lot, but it took a while to get there. So at launch, is that going to happen? Is the story going to be delivered? Am I going to have reasons to go to all these planets? These are all reasonable questions that I think are worth keeping a realistic look on, but only time will tell. I'm looking forward to it. I hope to see a ton of people playing it. It looks like a really good game. Like and subscribe. Do this stuff. You want all that? All of that. Hey there, it's Skeg Broggy. Thanks for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and follow me here on Twitch for more awesome content. Link is in the description.